We'll let a few minutes run by as some of the attendees come in. Hi, everybody. Doug and I are excited to share some new stuff with you today. Hope you're having a beautiful Friday. Feel free to connect with us through chat or any questions throughout the presentation. Always here to be of service. All right, people are starting to trickle in. I say we give it to 102 and we'll get rolling. Doug, think good?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for taking the time today and joining. See some familiar names on the list. Thanks for the attendance. All right. Yeah. Screen share. My screen shares, Doug, pretty well?
Yeah.
Cool.
For me, it does.
All right. Give us just one more minute and we will get started. All right, Elizabeth, I'm going to pass it along to you. Thanks for the attendance, everybody. We're looking forward to sharing a little bit more about a new tool that NRX is releasing into the market. Elizabeth, you want me to talk through the agenda for today?
Sure, take it over.
Okay, and then yeah, please help with any housekeeping. But we'll get to housekeeping in a second. You know Doug and I think most people do, but we will definitely introduce ourselves and tell you what we do for NRX. We're gonna look at the supplier view of Insights, how it helps with licensing and pricing competitiveness. This is the new tool, we call it Insights. Also broker perspective, Doug's gonna provide a lot of that today of where Sparkplug is today and where it's going with these new pieces of information that we are gathering. We got a couple of quick polls, so please, as the polls come up, share your thoughts. We'd really love your opinion. And then lastly, we'll open it up for Q&A, and please interact with us anytime. Chat, Q&A, always here to be of service. Elizabeth, our amazing host.
Absolutely. So just a little housekeeping. We definitely want your engagement. There is a Q&A functionality. Feel free to drop questions in there. They are visible to everyone, and they will either be answered live by Jason or Doug, or we can follow up with them in an email following the webinar. If you have any questions afterwards, you'll see on the last slide Doug and Jason's contact information, and then the recording will be sent after the call. So look for an email from us probably on Monday morning, and it will be directly into your inbox for you to share with your teams.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Elizabeth, for setting up great webinars as always. I humbly am Jason Beck. I am leading our supplier sales efforts, and I have the pleasure of working alongside my esteemed colleague, Doug Brennicky, who manages our broker side of the house. Hi, Doug. How are you?
Fantastic. Appreciate that great intro. But yeah, most of the brokers on the call probably know me, some of the suppliers. But let's launch into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone knows on the call, host of experience here between Doug and I over the last 15 plus years working with retail energy and retail energy brokers specifically. We enjoy helping our clients, so feel free to interact with us anytime. Before we get rolling, I just wanted to let everybody know we will be at EMC in DC coming up. Nate's giving a panel about AI and some really cool stuff that we will likely have a webinar circa November, December on kind of different AI initiatives that we have going on within NRX. But we will be doing some live demonstration there, so please join us. And then lastly, for the brokers on the panel and probably some of the channel managers from suppliers as well, we will be at Austin, Texas. I wish Doug's face was on here, but unfortunately he just told me before he's not going, and I'm mad at him about it, but that's okay. He has a great excuse. But we look forward to seeing everybody at TIPA too. So NRX has a bunch of solutions. I see a hand raise. Hey, Jack, I'm going to allow you to talk. What's going on, man?
I'm just saying hello, Jason. Sorry to interrupt your thing. If anybody wants to know anything more about EMC, I'm on the line.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for doing that. I really appreciate and your attendance here for sure.
All right.
We'll
Give
let
me-
you know if anyone has any questions about EMC. We love participating.
Thank you, Jason.
In regards to NRX solutions, we are kind of trying to simplify them. I know a lot of folks have told over time that we, have a lot of different products and we don't know the names. It's like, we don't expect you to know their names. The names are really internally for us to make sure that we know what we're talking about within all of our 100 NRXers that we have across the globe. So we're simplifying it into really 3 main hubs plus a 4th called data hubs. So supplier hub, we focus on sales operations, workflow management. This is like a broker resource management tool. It has AI inputs so that we can reduce all of the heavy lifting that a channel manager would have of typing in a quote that they receive from a broker via email. We have AI contract ingestion, credit, pricing. We don't do pricing. We interact with a pricing engine of your choice and a billing engine of your choice. So and then on the back end, we have craft to manage commissions, having paid out over $1 billion in commissions across 10 suppliers through that platform. We really feel like we know broker commissions better than anybody else. And we know that because we've been working on the broker side and with Doug's help building out Sparkplug. Doug, you want to give a little mention of the broker hub?
Yeah, Broker Hub says, Sparkplug is our flagship product as we've evolved. We're going to do some rebranding around that. So Sparkplug is still the product. We're going to have some new names around it, some capabilities. And just from a branding perspective, you're going to hear it more called from a broker hub, and all the suite of components, products that we have will fall in line underneath that. And as we kind of talked through today, you're going to hear some things that we're talking about we're doing with suppliers, and in the back of your head, you're like, well, why can't you do that for me? Well, that's part of this back end component, and internally within our own operations, we have API services and things like that. So multiple products can call and access it. So that's where we're taking this discussion today.
I love that. And then we try to tie together both the broker and the supplier's communication via APIs as well. And we'll drop this API bomb a lot of times, but really what this is, an API is just the way 2 systems speak to each other. If you think about every system having to speak to every system, you have thousands and thousands and millions of points of connection. And what our market hub is with Exchange is really one hub and spoke model for retail energy. Imagine that, a broker only has to tell one API, this is how I have my utilities, ComEd versus Commonwealth Edison. And as it passes through the Exchange APIs, who is ever on the other end, let's say you're sending it to one of our clients on Exchange's NRG, you're sending a bid to NRG, it just shows up in their inbox. And this way, then communication happens faster, deals happen faster, and we know time's of the essence when it comes to energy pricing and getting deals done. So Exchange is really that API hub one time to plug in. We also have a broker portal as a service, Exchange Live. It's also becoming something that looks like a dashboard. So even if you're not running one of our software products, Propeller or Sparkplug, you'd have a way to see all of the activity. And again, another tool that we have rolling out here shortly. What we're here to talk about today, and we'll stop telling you too much about our company to jump into, is insights. We have and sit on a lot of data. Our broker data is proprietary to our brokers, so we'll never show a supplier anything that is, broker centric. It's their data. But the combination of all of the information that goes through NRX and goes through the exchange, we've always thought that there's a way to help retailers and brokers do business better if they have more insights, more intelligence, more real-time dashboards for the industry. And so that's what we're going to get into today. All right, so let's start with the supplier review. I am going to pop this up here. What you're looking at is insights. Everybody would have a login. It's another tool. For what it's worth, there's some design elements going on in NRX right now that we're trying to make our menus easier to understand. And then also for folks that have multiple products, you'll start seeing product windows here where you can flip between products with single sign-on. So just a couple things that you will notice. What you're looking at with insights, there's really two main components to it. The first is regulatory licensing. Brokers and suppliers have to get licensing constantly, and many have to keep up with renewals. But specifically on the supplier side, there are now rules and massive fines, like $50,000 per instance, fines from the PUC in certain states if a supplier pays a broker that isn't licensed. So this is starting to become a regulatory risk that a lot of suppliers are getting ahead of and making sure that if the PUC ever came, they have documentation that shows, okay, we're going above and beyond to make sure we understand every broker who is licensed and where. And so that's what I'll take you through today is first the insights product on the regulatory license side. The other side is pricing and ranking, which I'll get to in a second, but I'll just start with the regulatory licensing. So what we do is we screen scrape all the regulatory PUC sites, across any deregulated market on a nightly basis. We update all broker licenses so they're up to date to the day. I hope somebody from Mantis sees this, but I always start with a company like Mantis Innovations because when I search for Mantis, it says Emex, and folks are like, well, I know Emex, they're a broker too. Well, but Mantis has licenses under Emex, they have licenses under Mantis Innovations, and we've already done the hard work of tying together all the different types of entities that do business under one umbrella. This helps obviously when it comes to making sure that your list as a supplier is matched up against the way that the regulatory licenses are filed. What you can see here is a detailed snapshot of each state, each license, the license number, what type it is, last found on. So here's a couple in Connecticut and DE that look like, hey, we're not finding them in daily scrapes. Well, 10.3 is today, so I'm not as worried about that one. But DE 731, maybe we're not finding it on the website anymore. And so again, what you can do is you can go into actions and see the actual screenshot. We take a screenshot nightly just in case, a PUC says that their website changed, right? And like the document on the website is updated and the broker's not licensed anymore, but you had a screenshot from the night before. We keep documentation of those screenshots on our nightly scrapes. If you want to, you can click to the source site and it would take you to the PUC. Whatever I clicked on, I can't remember if it was Massachusetts or Illinois. It was Illinois, and it's right here. And this is your, live site and what the live names that they have on their license is. Lastly, with this tool, you would be able to follow any of the brokers that a supplier manages. And then anytime a license is updated or that broker goes into a new state, it would alert the folks within the channel management team at that supplier. The other information that we pull is contacts. So, there might be, it's a fellow TPR member, Matt Kinney, that comes often, who's head of regulatory. So it makes sense to see his name on here, but contacts who filed the licenses, different addresses that they have under them. That is what a individual broker looks like. Now, all of this information is also available via API in our system for commissions, which is Craft. We actually store and link up those licenses. Of course, I didn't log in, so it's going to make me log in again, and I will in a second, but I'll show you in Craft how we
Yeah, well, that loads up.
Thanks, buddy.
We've got brokers that are looking at this too, and they're saying, hey, that's great. You're tracking all these licenses and the like. So why can't you help me manage my own licensing too? So we're exploring things like renewal reminders by state, a single dashboard where you can see everything in one place. And if you don't want to deal with all the renewals, we already have a regulatory partner, consulting partner that we work with that can help you with the filings, and kind of think of that as license maintenance as a service.
It's a really good idea. If any of the brokers are interested in that or feel like your organizations would be interested in something like that, please reach out to Doug. We're starting to gain initial interest in that. I am going to invite Sandra to join us and talk. Hey, Sandra, how are you?
Unmute. There we go.
There.
Hi, can you hear me now?
I
Yep.
can, thanks.
Yes, Doug. Yes, please send us the data on that, on the licensing aspect. Definitely
perfect.
want to get the data on that.
Cool. We'll set up. Thank you so much, Sandra. We will set up a meeting with you to just kind of talk out the infrastructure and what we're thinking here and get your thoughts of if it really is a great solution for you as well. Thanks so much.
And anybody else who doesn't want to come on microphone, we're going to contact info at the end here as well too. So feel free to shoot me or Jason an email at the end or a phone call.
That's right, because if you come on off of mute, then we talk to you and then we mute you again. So sorry, Sandra. Thanks. If you have to raise your hand again, though, we would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for making this interactive. It makes us feel like we have a great community here. So, okay, so that's a little bit about licensing, and Doug shared with you how that would be used. Just for the suppliers that are on this phone call, I just wanted to show them quickly that we have APIs that are available because not everybody uses Craft for their commissions. But if you drill into a given broker and look at the licenses for that broker, there are ties specifically between Insights and Craft. And if a broker receives a payment through our automated process of pulling in EDI and billing data and matching it up against deal data that Craft goes through, you would be able to put any of those payments that are to a broker that is not licensed in a status called regulatory hold. And so, and you can report out on that too. So a broker can see like, hey, I'm holding these payments because you're not licensed. Full automation. So there are a couple of suppliers that we're talking to already in terms of bringing that into their own system, which again, love you to use ours, but if you have your own that you're very happy with, we are happy to use this as piping data back and forth. Doug, am I missing anything on Insights that I should be sharing?
No, I think that's good for licensing side.
Awesome. Again, thanks so much for the attendees, but if there's any questions on licensing, let us know. The other part of Insights is pricing. And so I'll start with this of how we're getting this data. It's always a question. We sit on about 100 brokers processing something like 1,800 spreadsheets a day from retail energy suppliers across the US. And so there are 34 suppliers that we have identified that produce a daily matrix, at least in one territory or zone. And we pull in all of that data, anonymize it, aggregate it and anonymize it. And I'll show you what it's used for from the supplier side. We have a couple suppliers already signed up for this and others that are considering it. So Doug will shortly talk a little bit more about how brokers could utilize this afterwards, but that's how we're getting the data. What I'll note right now is that I'm signed in as myself, Jason at nrx.com. If I was signed in as an individual supplier, I would know that I am supplier AF. So, which is funny, but I'm supplier AF, right? It would say Jason Beck Energy if I was a supplier named Jason Beck Energy on supplier AF. So you do know who you are, but everything else is anonymized. And what that allows you to do is to see trend and also kind of stack rank, like where are you? What we do is we aggregate all the information up. You can see that you can look by market. We have other things like load profile and load zones. Coming soon are things like narrowing it down by usage bandwidths, like 250,000 to 500,000. What are the various prices for that? So a supplier would say, okay, I'm supplier R. I know that, and I can see that, hey, I'm pretty good in this market actually in ERCOT as a whole. It'd be great to then communicate out to all your broker partners, look, I'm like top 4 in this market. You should be giving me more looks, or I think I should be getting more of the business. This is always a conversation between brokers and suppliers, and the brokers will just say, you're too high. And now, unfortunately, for the brokers on the phone, we are arming the suppliers with data to say, look, no, this is what the market is. And again, it's anonymized to the stance that they're not understanding who are all these other suppliers that are above and below, but also how the market's moving. And so when you look at this graph, when you reduce all the noise of every individual supplier, but just look at minimum, maximum, and mean average price, if my line, let's say I was broker R again, was like right here and like trending along on the market, but underneath, I would know that I'm better than average. Again, another data point that I could communicate. Also on a price trend chart, I'm able to see is is my number jumping up or down quicker than the average, right? The market's moving in this movement. How is my matrix moving? What is my pricing team doing? With the data, and then it leads to better conversations between the retail energy supplier pricing desk and the retail energy supplier sales channel management team. So that is the price trend overview. We also then graph all this information on sorry, I didn't even state this, but this is a look back over the last 30 days. We have all data since May currently loaded up into this platform, but this is a look back over the last 30 days of pricing. And then what we do is we take a snapshot of today's pricing, today being October 3rd, and we graph out what the price would be if it was a 12-month. Again, you can pull term up here if you want to. But let's say whatever the term that you selected is, it would show you what the forward curve is, meaning today, what is the price for an October 12-month start, an October 12-month start, a 12-month start in December. So like a 12-month strip. And again, same thing, spaghetti lines for all suppliers. You would know which one you are, like supplier R. And I can see that, hey, pricing is better if you do a 12-month starting in October or starting in that October. If you start sometime over the summer, it looks to be a lot more expensive. Probably because you're getting into 2 very high capacity years under one contract, but no market expert here. We do the same thing with the average and price, the mean price, the max and the minimum as far as the forward curves. Again, spikes in data like, hey, this supplier's average price when you go from, let's say, a March start date being 78776 is the average of this market. And then you come over here and you're seeing an 8.2. That's a 6 mil jump. Again, even from a broker standpoint, I'm already talking myself into this, Doug, of this information would be valuable to brokers too. So there's a little bit about the pricing side from the suppliers.
Let me add something here too. Jason has a lot of capabilities there on filters and state and utility and rate class and things like that. So as you drill down into that, you're going to get to more specific drill down type of pricing. And then of course, we know that not all fixed products are the same. Some include capacities or transmission pass-throughs, others don't. So over time, we're working on surfacing those product metadata so that you can explain spreads more clearly and to customers and make true apples to apples comparisons.
Yeah, so very true. Anything else you feel like I'm missing on the pricing side before I get into maybe some of the other stuff that we're looking to produce? Cool. Do you want to ask the broker some questions maybe about their use of a tool like this?
Right, because what this chart is showing is a lot of various different suppliers. And what I'm going to show you in a moment is we're going to show you a similar type of tool that a broker has. Now it's that tool is constrained to only the suppliers that broker has a relationship with. And so somewhere in this, there's what can Sparkplug do to help highlight a supplier that I'm missing that's consistently sharper than the ones I already work with? And that's exactly what we're researching here. And so, what you see here, this is the matrix pricing trend chart. Poll's popping up. Hold off on the poll. Hold on. So this is what is available in Sparkplug today. Each line here is one of your contracted suppliers. The x-axis is the time. The y is the cents per kilowatt hour. And brokers tell us that they use this every day to see who's leading, catch sudden shifts, and to notice when a supplier quietly tightens up their margins or widens them. And so with filters for state, utility, rate class, load zone, term, things like that, you can really zero in on the market that you're working on and help know where to place that deal, as opposed to having to price it against all the various different suppliers. So in short, kind of shows you where your current suppliers are most competitive and where you might have some room to negotiate some sharper rates. So there's some things missing from this, right? It's who are the suppliers that you don't have a relationship with. So we're looking to evolve this into requests we hear all the time is, what if Sparkplug could highlight when I'm missing a supplier who's consistently sharper than the ones I already work with. So that's what we're doing, trying to turn some of this data into real market intelligence, not just a pricing chart. And of course, one thing that we need to do with that is really kind of anonymize some of the supplier pricing that you don't have a relationship with, because this is sensitive data. So we're to work with that, but that's something we're looking through to explore. And similarly, like I said earlier on the supplier pricing, make sure we've got the apples to apples clarity on pricing, what's included and things like that. So so we've got a poll up. You've already read it, so I don't need to introduce it, I guess.
Oh no, I think it ended, and then I am sure that it'll be brought back up here in a second from Elizabeth. But Doug, I think another data set that we'll be asking the brokers about is the PTCs. I know that we hear that a lot from brokers and even suppliers too, is like, do you have PTCs by market and within the same graphs? Like, it'd be nice to see, from here what a trend line of a 12-month contract term, has been. And like, where's the PTC? Is now a good time to buy?
Yeah, we see really two use cases, winning new business. So where you can show your customers how you negotiated rate, your negotiated rate stacks up against the utility default. And then second, how you defend your renewals. So providing, proving savings over time when you've consistently beaten that utility benchmark, perhaps in a year-end type of report. We've heard that quite often. We're also looking at showing PTC headrooms. So it's basically the gap between supplier rates and the utility rate, and looking at different ways to show it, like an option overlay on this chart, or even some type of a quick reference within proposals. So within Sparkplug, numerous ways of showing it. I've got loads of various different mock-ups that I've shared with a few brokers that had expressed interest. Of course, not all brokers operate in those PTC markets. They don't really care. So kind of a loaded, weighted question as far as when we're asking these brokers, do they care about it? Some do, some don't. Some thinks it's essential. I want it in a proposal. I want to be able to generate a proposal that has that PTC price in it. I need reports at the end of the year and show these savings. So there's quite a bit potentially to it. But as you know, we've got the data hub. We're capturing a lot of this information. We're just really working with the brokers and suppliers here is to say, like, give us feedback. What's really important? We're all a bunch of smart guys, but at the same time, I don't sell energy. You do. You work with the customers. This is how Sparkplug and all of our products continuously emerge and grow, is getting that kind of feedback, not just us plopping new components into the product. So looks like some of the folks are now jumping into the first question here about visibility in the supplier rates. That is somewhat self-explanatory here. And so it looks like most of the responses here, still got people weighing in, got some maybes, but primarily at this point, some help identify new partnerships. And of course, that's brokers looking at this as a growth tool, trying to expand supplier options and broaden their market access, because you don't even know if you're working with the right supplier in certain markets, and these tools will help you with that.
So true. Thanks everybody for participating too. If you haven't filled out the poll, continue to do so. We'll be sharing the poll results here and towards the end of the webinar. There's really only one more thing to show you at this time before we go into any questions. We haven't seen a lot of questions. We did think it was going to be pretty self-explanatory, the insights webinar, but we do welcome any other audience participation. But what I wanted to show you is a little bit of a preview of something that we will be likely making available to the entire market as a freemium within the next quarter. And it's really just to kind of stoke some conversation and stoke some information. And again, if you have feedback, we welcome it, but we call it 1, 2, 3 poop. No, we don't, but it's the graphics you do see on here, trying to be a little funny. But within each market, there is winners, leaders in pricing. And when we look at apples to apples and groups that, might not have the best pricing in certain areas, some areas there's only one supplier in, so it makes it pretty easy. But you can see that different suppliers operate in different areas, and different suppliers are better in other areas. And they do change depending on where you're looking. So, I know that a lot of folks would be like saying, well, I would love to see what a 12-month looks like, and who's the best supplier on this, and who's the best supplier on that. And then my answer to you is come in and see our actual tool. That's what the tool itself would be used for. We can put some highlights of information out there that is high level. But if you're really looking for that deep level of insights, that's where we welcome you into the tool, and we can share a little bit more once we do that. Let's see if there's any questions. I think that's covered what I was aiming to cover today, Doug, unless there was anything on your side that you felt were missing.
No, I think we got through most of it.
Awesome. We are playing around with some ranking data, as you saw. Again, the freemium being the 1, 2, 3 poop, but everything else is coming as well with the ranking, where we anonymize and give a little bit more information to individual suppliers of, if you were to improve your ranking from number 10 in a market to number 8 in a market, it would be this much difference in margin. And a lot of suppliers that we're working with right now are talking about having this data set so that they could see if their matrix volume changes if they change their ranking by 2 or 3 spots. And so that's another way to utilize data like this, if you're really doing a good amount of matrix business, is to get into the details of if I'm 8th ranked, am I having 50 deals a week? And if I'm 10th ranked, I'm having 50 deals a week. Well, then you'd rather be 10th ranked. So more to come on that. I think a lot of suppliers will be reaching out to the broker community with our data set to have better conversations about how to win more business. All right, with that, is there any questions from the audience? If not, I'm going to give you 30 minutes of your life back today. Awesome. Well, I greatly appreciate it. We're here, we're around. We'll definitely follow up. Appreciate Jack and Sandra jumping on with us, talking about EMC, and then talking about, Sandra, how brokers would utilize the regulatory filing data. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing the poll with the rest of the audience. Doug, it looks like, good amount of folks, this would help them identify some new partnerships. PTC is a little bit of a mixed bag, as we usually get. For what it's worth on the PTC side, for those who did answer the poll, we actually do have a data source provider, somebody who keeps up with them on an ongoing basis and can provide it as a service. That's why we're asking these questions to you, because we really want to see if this is something that we need to get into Sparkplug, and if brokers are really willing to pay for it, because it's a game changer or it's something that's utilized for their business. So we appreciate the feedback. Continue to make it keep coming. We're here to listen. Appreciate it. Doug, thanks so much for joining me today, man, and doing this webinar. And Elizabeth, thank you as well for getting it all together.
Appreciate you, everybody joining.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.